Hi, this is Melusi Simelane, and I am excited to be speaking to you about the Chevening Scholarship that has opened for application. I want to speak to you about the do's and don'ts, and I'm so excited to be talking about it as I'm completing my International Relations Masters at the University of Sussex. And the reason it excites me is not because the scholarship paid for my tuition, but it's because it really forced me to ask myself the fundamental question about who really am I and what do I want to contribute to the world that I live in. So I'm making this video to answer some of these common questions that people would have, the do's and the don'ts. But more than that, I just want to show you something that they don't always tell you about the Chevening Scholarship. They're not looking for perfect people. They're not looking for Beyonce or me. Well, they are actually looking for people with genuine stories, people with real struggles, and a clear vision for impact. When I was where you are right now, I was so nervous. I thought chevening was all about people who had figured out their lives. I thought it was about leaders who had already changed the world, people who look good on LinkedIn, people who actually have perfect resumes. But I was so wrong. And here is something that I learned. Chevening doesn't want your resume of achievements. They want your resume of aspirations, your dreams, your hopes, your goals. But fundamentally, they want your authenticity. And when I applied, I wasn't a perfect candidate. I don't know what a perfect candidate is. And my first degree, surprisingly, from the University of Swaziland is in marketing. It's a bachelor's in marketing. And then life took me into civic rights work. It took me into human rights work broadly all over Southern Africa. But now I'm completing my master's in international relations at the University of Sussex. However, that journey from marketing to advocacy and now into international relations, not being a straight line, is precisely the point. Chevening is not looking for straight lines. They're looking for growth. They want to see that you've evolved, that you've followed your purpose, even when it took you somewhere unexpected, and that this degree that you would be applying for is the next logical step in that evolution. So, whatever field you're in, whether you started in accounting and moved into climate work, or started in nursing and moved into public health policy, your winding road is never a weakness. It is that evidence of growth. So, what I did have was a clear story about why my work mattered to me, and I was honest about where I wanted to grow next. That honesty, that is what they respond to. The first thing you need to understand is this: chevening applications are not about competing against other people, they're actually about competing with yourself, competing with the old you and the new you, and showing them that you are willing to grow, you are willing to evolve. And let me break it down to you. When they ask you, why do you want to study in the United Kingdom? They're not asking you, why is it nice in in the UK? Of course, it's a fantastic weather. They're asking you, have you really thought deeply about your development? When they ask you about your career goal, they're not asking about what sounds impressive. I mean, I could have gone for, an MBA, but I understood that they are asking about how serious am I about what I want to do next. I spent, in fact, over a year working on my personal statement, not because it had to be perfect, but because I was trying to be honest with myself. So that is the learning story. And it starts before the application itself. Now, let's address the practical question that a lot of you might be struggling with. Am I eligible? Chevening has clear criterion on this. You must check it out on their website. It speaks about a 2-year work experience or professional work experience before you start your course. You must be a national of the eligible country list, all of which you can find on our website. You also must be able to converse in English, and you must be planning to return to your home country. This is often a very tricky one, but it's a very important one. You must be planning to return to your country. Now, if you're a recent graduate and you're worried about the work experience requirement, start building it now. Stop worrying and really just start building it now. These 2 years don't really have to be a glamorous job. It doesn't have to be at a company or an NGO. It can literally be any professional role where you will be able to learn something. I did a mix myself. I did freelancing advocacy, I did consultancy, I did formal employment. I founded an organization. Um, but if you're currently working, which I suspect that you are, that experience is very valuable. Don't downplay it on your application just because you think it doesn't sound like what Chevening wants. And the second important thing is that you need to be honest about the timelines, because if you've graduated, say, in 2023, then this is a moment for you to apply, um, because you've already got those 2 years. But if you say, I've graduated this year, then you still need to build that. But chevening is really worth the wait. You do not have to rush into it. Chevening is also not just for people in my field. And I think it's important that I mention this because, of course, I work in human rights and civic rights space. But Chevening funds scholars from engineering, from medicine, from finance, from data sciences, from agriculture, journalism, education, the arts, climate sciences, entrepreneurship, public health. Almost any field really in which you can study in the UK, whatever sector you're in. If you can show leadership and a vision for impact in your country, your experience is exactly what Chevening requires, and you're eligible to apply for the scholarship. So now let's get to the heart of this, which is the personal story, the personal statement. This is the heart of the application. So there will be forms, there will be tests, there will be references, but really it's about that personal story. And this is where you get to tell them who you are. Who are you applying for the scholarship? And you remember I spoke about authenticity earlier. Well, they can tell if you're faking it. I can tell if people are faking authenticity with me. I'm sure you can too. When you write your personal statement, don't try to be someone you're not. Don't write about what you think Chevening wants to hear. Write about what is actually true about you. For me, this meant writing about the specific moment I decided to do human rights work. It wasn't a dramatic epiphany. It was a slow realization that I could no longer ignore the injustices that my community faces, that my country faces. And that moment, no matter how unglamorous it was, became the core of my application. In fact, it continues to inspire me. So Chevening wants to know, number one, why you? Why not any other leader? Why are you so impressive? They want to know why you specifically. What's your background? What's your experience? What's your perspective? What makes this field your authentic calling? And number two, they want to know your vision, not a fantasy, a realistic version of how you'll use your UK degree. What problems are you trying to solve? For me, it was clear. I wanted to strengthen the capacity of civil society organizations across Southern Africa, and that specificity mattered for me. Number three, why the UK? Why now? And which UK university? Which course? Have you actually thought about this, or does it feel generic? When I applied, I chose the University of Sussex and International Relations deliberately. I'd already done the Obama Foundation Scholars Program at Columbia University in New York, so I knew what world class learning environments could offer, and I knew precisely what I still needed, the theoretical grounding in international relations to match my years of practice, the vocabulary in doing the work that I continue to do. And this is what this degree offers for me. Now, I could explain why that institution or why that cause or why that timing. That research is part of showing you're serious. When you're writing, here's my advice: draft your personal statement in your own voice first. Don't edit it for professionalism. Don't care much about the grammar yet. Don't, sorry, jump, rather dump your truth into those pages. Then go back to craft it. Don't jump into making it perfect yet, but put your heart in it. And one more thing about the personal statement: it's not an autobiography, so don't try to tell your whole life story. Pick those moments that matter most to your narrative. And for me, it was, of course, founding Eswatini Sexual and Gender Minorities. It was, of course, the work that I do at the Southern Africa Litigation Center. And, of course, the specific human rights issues that I'm focused on currently. But everything else becomes context, it becomes the meat that strengthens your story. So be careful about that authenticity. Don't fake it, tell it as it is. Okay, so now you're asking yourself about rejection. But before I get to my success story, I want to speak to you directly as someone watching this right now and thinking, but I've applied already and I failed. Maybe once, maybe twice, maybe even more than that. And right now you're thinking, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I should just give up. Maybe I should, I mean, do something else with my life. Maybe you should. But I want you to hear this from me. Your rejection is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of the numbers. Let's be honest here. Every year, Chevening receives tens of thousands of applications. This is like tens of thousands, really. And guess how many people they get to award? Just about 1,600 to 1,800 scholars out of tens. of thousands. This is about 2 to 3% acceptance rate. And for perspective, it is harder to get a Chevening scholarship than it is to get into Harvard. Think about that. And this means that vast majority of people who apply, people with incredible stories, people who are doing important work around the world, people with a genuine vision, they don't get in at their first try, or their second, or sometimes even their third. That's not because they're not good enough. It's because there are so many other uniquely beautiful stories out there, so many other young leaders, or even middle-aged leaders like myself who are trying to change the world. But Andre Lord, a poet and a theorist, says something that stays with me every time. He says, transformation is not a future event, it is a present activity. Remember that. And I think about rejection the same way. So when you apply, you don't get selected, that's not the end of your transformation. It is part of it. You're learning something about yourself. You're learning something about your vision. You're learning something about your own resilience. And here's the thing, if you've been rejected once, you know more about what you want now than you did before. You know more about how to tell your own story. You know more about what Chevening is looking for. That is power right there. Knowledge is power, remember. And if you apply, again, apply differently. Not because you were not authentic the first time, but because you've grown, you've evolved. Remember that story of authenticity. Authenticity also means showcasing your evolution as a human. So you've done more work, obviously. You've thought more deeply. Your story has changed. That's not starting over. That's progression. The way I see it, that's transformation. And if this is your first time hearing about Chevening and you haven't applied yet, let me say this to you. The rejection I'm talking about is not your story. So don't let fear stop you. Don't let the anxiety of not being rejected stop you. Keep on trying. Not desperately, not like you're chasing something that will never be yours, but like you're building something year after year that will inevitably become real for you. That's the kind of trying that I'm talking about because Chevening is worth waiting for. And certainly, Chevening is worth trying over and over to finally get there. So you're probably thinking, are you serious, Melus? All of the stress, is it worth it? And I'll tell you what, yes, it is. And here's my story. It might be yours too. See, I was awarded this Chevening Scholarship, and right now I'm concluding my Master's in International Relations at the University of Sussex, as I've already mentioned. And I can tell you now, even before I have finished, it has already changed everything about my life, but not perhaps in the way that one would have thought. Of course, I thought the degree would be the transformation. And yes, the education is important, deeply, deeply important. But what has actually changed my trajectory is the networks, the people, being in seminar rooms with scholars from across the world, all wrestling with the biggest questions of our time. The confidence that comes from testing your ideas against people from 100 different other countries, different other contexts. And here's the thing, I didn't arrive empty-handed, of course. Before Chevening, I had founded Eswatini Sexual and Gender Minorities. I was leading civic rights, still am, at the Southern Africa Litigation Center. Of course, I had done the Obama Foundation Scholars Program at Columbia University. I've been a part of One Young World, where I've spoken at length at different forums. But Chevening didn't give me my purpose. I brought my purpose to Chevening. And what Chevening has given me is the theoretical depth, the global networks, and the platforms to take that purpose further. And that is the crucial part. The scholarship doesn't make you who you are. You make yourself who you are. The scholarship is an accelerant. The scholarship contributes to who you are, that success, that dream, that goal. The scholarship is meant to give you the tools to become it. So Chevening knows this. They're betting on you and they're betting that you'll go to a UK university, you'll grow, and then you'll go back home to your country and make a difference in whatever field you're in. And that is the point. So when you're writing your application, they're essentially asking, can we trust you to do something meaningful with this investment? And the way you convince them is not with a perfect resume. It is with clarity, with honesty, and with a vision they can actually truly believe in. Okay, so here is where I'm going to get a little bit visionary with you because this matters a lot. There's a reason why Chevening invests in scholars from across the world, from across the Commonwealth and beyond, really. They're not trying to create a brain drain for the countries in the Commonwealth. They're actually trying to create a network of people who carry forward values of democracy, values of human rights, values of the rule of law. So when you apply for Chevening, you're not just applying for a degree, you are actually stepping into a movement. Now, think about what the world needs right now. Think about what you can contribute to the world, right? We need engineers who can build resilient infrastructure. We need doctors and public health specialists who can strengthen our healthcare systems. We need economists who can design policies that actually reach people. We need journalists who can tell the truth and defend the truth and hold those in power accountable, really. We need teachers who can transform education system and prepare our children for the world. We need agricultural scientists who can feed nations in this changing climate. We need tech innovators, financial experts, artists, urban planners, environmental scientists. Every single one of those fields need leaders who can understand both their local context and the global picture. Yes, in my own corner, that means people who can actually analyze the social, political, and legal frameworks of the world and actually help us advance human dignity and human rights and the international rule of law. But whatever it is that you are contributing in, and if you've been thinking, I'm not important enough for this, or my country is not too big or is too small for this, my field isn't that kind of thing that they can fund, stop. Chevening scholars are working on everything: climate change, education, medicine, engineering, gender justice, migration, economics, technology, agriculture. They create everything. And they're working in countries from South Africa to Vietnam, Nigeria to Jamaica, almost everywhere. It's over 100 countries. So your vision matters because your context matters. What you've experienced, what you've seen, what you've known in your community is what precisely makes it valuable for you to be a member of the Chevening community. So when you sit down and write that application, complicated as it might be, think about that. No pressure, of course, because you're not trying to become someone else. You are trying to become a better version of yourself in service of something bigger than yourself. So if you allow me, here's what I'm going to leave you with. First, check your eligibility. Make sure that you have the right work experience, not the right work, but the work experience, forgive me. Make sure you've got the language skills and that you've got a genuine intention to go back home. That's very important. Be realistic also about the timing. But second, don't wait until it's too late to draft those personal statements. Start now. Use your own voice. I've already explained this to you. But third, do your research. Now, this is very important. Select the university, select the program. Not just any UK program, not just any UK degree, but your degree. Fourth, remember that authenticity is not a weakness in this process. It is your strength. They've read thousands of essays. They want to hear yours. It's your voice that they want to hear. And finally, and importantly, really, believe that you belong in this process. You do. Your story, your context, your vision, they matter. Chevening is looking for people exactly like you. And if you have specific questions about the application, comment below. I'm reading them. Of course, I might not be able to respond on the private messages, but I'm reading them. So this is your cycle. I believe in you. I am rooting for you. And I am very, very proud that you are actually taking this step to apply for the Chevening Scholarship for 2027, 2028. The very best of luck from me. This is Melusi Simelane. Cheers.